Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a penultimate episode of The Gold Standard with Alan Mosley. And here's your host, Alan Mosley.
Guys, welcome back for another episode of The Gold Standard. It's the penultimate episode of The Gold Standard.
Penultimate episode.
You know what that means, don't you?
What?
It's the next to last episode.
Wow. Yeah.
It's the next to last episode of The Gold Standard. But we got to be clear with people.
Right.
We're still going to be here in a couple of weeks.
That's right.
The show's not going away.
No.
It's rebranding.
Yes.
It's gonna be called something different.
That's right.
It's gonna be a little bit different format.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll be a little bit more entertaining.
Absolutely.
I don't know why I
lots
said
of
it
little
like that.
surprises.
I don't even know why I said it like that.
You just said it like that because you're the man.
It's gonna be a little different, but
Yes,
we're not going away. So I don't
No,
want.
we're not.
So I know what's gonna happen after next week's episode.
Uh-huh.
Like we're gonna lose 50% of our subscribers.
We're not. Hopefully we'll gain more.
But you won't have to worry about any of that because you can follow us on social media, which is facebook.com/TGS Alan Mosley. Twitter is at Alan M. Mosley, but you don't have to do any of that.
Right.
You can just go to our website for now, which is thegoldstandardpodcast.com. Also consider supporting the show on our Patreon, which is patreon.com/TGS Alan Mosley.
That's right.
But even though the show's changing and we're going to be, so we have a ton of huge announcements coming down the pipeline, but they're not ready yet. They're just not ready yet. So you're going to have to stand by, but you'll still be able to go to all of those platforms for now to get updates on the new show. You know, Blake and I have been hard at work getting everything set up, getting the new stage built, everything getting ready for the new program.
That's right. And like I said, he has lots of little surprises for you guys. So hang in there. It's going to be pretty neat.
What's the difference between it being lots of little surprises as opposed to like a few big surprises?
Because little surprises are more fun. It's like a piñata, you know?
Speaking of being like a piñata, that, ladies and gentlemen, is the #1 producer in podcasting. That's Blake Osborne. Blake, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. This is our first show back from the holidays, at least my first show back from the holidays. It was pretty good. Yeah, my kids got everything I wanted, and I got debt, so.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, this is like the hardest week of the year, I think.
It is.
I think, because I think if you just asked people, in the middle of April, hey, what's the toughest time of year? I think people might, maybe people would think of the holidays. Maybe people would think of like a time of the year that's synonymous with something tragic in their lives. I think the hardest time of year is the first full week back at work.
Oh, definitely.
After Christmas/New Year's.
Yeah, especially the week we've had.
But not that I want you to think that this show is anything. Oh, I love this show. It's not work at all.
It's hard
no,
work.
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Speaking of a lot of fun, we're going to remember this week. We've been way off our game. By the way, like when we were getting ready for the holidays, it was just a crapshoot in here.
Yeah, I know. It was crazy.
So we're going to get back to talking about a few of our friends, starting with the other 3%. Who has the Mr. Rogers meme, U.S. presidents trying to create a Middle East foreign policy. I'm not very good at it, but it doesn't matter. I told you the story that I went to go see the Mr. Rogers movie.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to take some of that Mr. Rogers-ness into my... Yeah, like incorporated into me.
See, that's why we need to get you some puppets and like a little trolley car and stuff like that.
So, no. So he had the thing. He had the thing in the movie where he tells you, like, he's trying to tell you that it's okay to feel a certain way. So, like, if you said to me, Alan, I really hate that Greta Thunberg. I'm just trying to think of something Blake-esque.
Something rage-filled.
Mr. Rogers would say, well, sometimes we hate Greta Thunberg, and that's okay. But of course, what he was saying is that it's okay to have feelings. He wasn't saying that it was okay to go do something terrible.
Sure.
He was saying it was okay to have feelings. That's what he was saying.
Absolutely.
So I've been doing that, by the way. I've been doing that on other programs I've been on.
Oh, good.
I've been doing that where someone will say, we should just, I don't know, we should blow up the federal building, which we shouldn't.
No.
And I would say, well, sometimes we want to blow up the federal building, and that's okay. That's
wow.
Anyway.
Okay.
Anyway.
So there's Mr. Rogers being happy.
So there's Mr. Rogers. I'm not very good at it.
No.
But it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
And then we're going to go to we're going to do a twofer for Liberty Memes this week. We're going to start off with, can someone check if these patriots have signed up for the military yet? Of course, there's, you'll notice that there's a theme in the ones that we've chosen this week, because this week is our big Iran history anti-war episode, and a lot of folks out there in the social media sphere have been waiting on this week's episode because I was a bit hot.
Oh yeah,
this past week.
Yeah, you were going on it, man. I was
a bit hot.
It was tight, bro.
So anyway,
there you go.
There's a 0% chance any of those chicken hawks will ever do anything ever.
No.
But anyway, we're going to move on to the last Liberty memes. There's Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, and they're watching American teenagers and Iranian teenagers fight.
Yeah,
ooh,
it's bad. It's
it's
real
bad.
It's real bad.
The reason why you say it's real bad, though, be honest. The reason why you say it's real bad is because you know it's true.
Yeah, I know, and I just feel bad for I feel bad for the pawns in the game, if you know what I mean.
The sharpest memes are the ones that there's truth to them, and that's why deep down you're like, you shouldn't have said that.
I know.
Ooh.
Proof that you really should watch this show. Because these memes don't come across very good on radio, but let me tell you something. We're looking at some funny stuff.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Very much so. Very much so.
So finally, before we wrap up the intro, we got to talk about our friends over at The Status Quo, which is thestatusquo.net.
That's right.
And you can look at their most recent episode is episode 64. Big shocker, the corporate press spreads lies to start wars.
Ooh, really?
What? Wait, what? Ooh.
Yeah.
Are you oohing me?
No, I completely agree with that.
That's
it's like, well, I didn't know that. Gee.
So Nick and Matt over at The Status Quo, I mean, this is right in their wheelhouse. So I would definitely suggest checking out that episode. It actually just came out today, so there you go. Definitely check that out. Again, you're going to see that there's kind of a theme to all the things I chose this week, because that's definitely what I'm going to be talking about today. But boy, it's a good thing that we got all that fun stuff out of the way in the intro.
Yeah, because it's fixing to get real serious.
I'm only doing this for my friend Blake.
Okay.
Blake said, Alan, you should give a disclaimer for this week's episode.
Please do.
So there's going to be some adult themes and language.
We're going to be getting pretty hard on some of the things coming up. So.
We're going to be getting pretty hard. That's what.
No, that wasn't. Don't go there. So
yeah.
No.
Next segment's going to be a little heavy.
Yep.
And I know that's why you're all here anyway.
Yeah.
So we'll be right back after this commercial break. Hey, did you see the playoff games last weekend?
Oh, you're into the sports ball game.
Sports Ball with Mike Meharry and Alan Mosley. SportsBallPodcast.com.
Sports ball is not a libertarian sports show. It's a sports show done by a couple of libertarians.
For when you need your bread in circuses.
Your ad could be playing right now, reaching thousands of potential customers. Sadly, it's not, but it could be. Find out how to be an advertised sponsor for The Gold Standard with Alan Mosley. Email us at tgsalanmosley@gmail.com. So I want to be honest with you guys for today's episode. So we're going to be talking a little bit about the whole tensions with Iran and the recent assassination and kind of fears for starting another Middle Eastern war.
Right.
But I got to be honest with you, I really wrestled a lot with how I wanted to approach today's episode. And the reason being is that I thought, we could talk purely about the foreign policy aspect of it. And any one of these things could have been a whole episode. We could have talked just about the U.S.'s history with Iran. We could have talked about Iran Air Flight 655. And the whole episode could have been about that and not about anything going on today.
Right.
But I thought, I don't really want to do a history episode this week. We could have talked about just the CIA overthrow of Iran's democratically elected government in 53 and the installing of the Shah and all that.
Right.
And we'll touch on that. But I didn't. But again, you could do a whole episode on that. You know?
Could. Yeah.
And so I decided I really want today to be more approaching people, how people respond to news like this, the unfortunate way that people allow their emotions and allow that whole nationalism to swell up to really affect their better judgment, and why it's so important for us to resist that temptation and to really be anti-war. It's easy to be anti-war sometimes, it's a lot harder to be anti-war when people feel attacked and threatened. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying.
And so it's times like now when people feel like they're at risk that they are the most easily susceptible to the drums of war.
Yeah.
But that's the most important time for us to kind of have our nethers up, you know?
Yeah.
And so starting off the bat, so of course, you know, General Qasem Soleimani, he is dead. He was assassinated by an American drone strike. This was allegedly in response to an attack on an American embassy in Iraq. Mm-hmm. And again, you know, we could do a whole episode on Qasem Soleimani.
Sure.
You know, you could talk about how he was a fighting ISIS in Syria, and he's fighting, you know, the enemy of our enemy is our friend, so to speak. But that's an oversimplification. You could talk about how he allegedly led militant groups against American targets, and that would make him a bad guy. But I really don't subscribe to this whole black and white, good and evil narrative. You know, like it's so much more complicated than that. And I don't mean for this episode to mean that I support the regime in Iran or that I think that Qasem Soleimani was a saint. Right. That's ridiculous. Yeah. And I shouldn't even have to say that. No. I shouldn't even have to say that, but there are those, and quick, remember, you heard the disclaimer, so sorry, Suzanne. There are those dick shitters out there who think that because you don't support X, you must be for Y. Right. That is just harebrained, low IQ filth that I'm not even going to justify a response to that crap. I don't support Qasem Soleimani. I don't think he was a great man. Right. I certainly don't support the tyrannical regime in Iran, but you know what? I don't support the tyrannical regime in the United States either. So I wanted to start off with the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo. Yeah. You know, he is statist filth incarnate. And he said that the assassination was justified because basically the Iranians are up to no good, that there's a potential terror attack waiting in the wings. These are people who are orchestrating it. This is a preemptive strike. And, you know, people eat that up. They do. They eat that up. They hear someone like Mike Pompeo say that, and they immediately concede, oh, well, okay, good job then. You know, if you're getting the bad guys, then it's okay. I'm normally anti-war, but if we're going to get the bad guys who are threatening us, that's okay. And I just have to ask people, where are you getting your information from? You're getting your information from State Department pressers, and you're getting it from the mainstream media, they themselves are just getting it straight from the State Department. Mm-hmm. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says, this is a bad guy, we're going to get him. And everyone's ready to pat themselves on the back and say, mission accomplished. This guy is trash. He is human debris. He is a major, horrible, tyrannical, lying, murderous cog in the wheelhouse of the biggest criminal organization that has ever been on the face of the earth. And that's who you're getting your information from. So when people say a phrase like, well, they attacked us, we have to respond. Who's they? Yeah. Who's they? And maybe they say, well, Iran. Iran is they. Who's Iran? You know, a little Star Trek reference. You know, Iran's not the Borg. Yeah. You know, they're not a singular hive mind consciousness. Yeah. That they all believe the same thing. They all believe the same thing about their own country. Mm-hmm. They all believe the same thing about the United States. They all have a singular agenda in mind. That's silly. Mm-hmm. That's ridiculous. It is. And you have to look no further than our own country. I mean, even amongst just mainstream thought, you have Democrats and you have Republicans, and all the Democrats are saying #resist because Orange Man bad, and all the Republicans are saying, well, Obama did it. And even though people in our camp kind of see them as they're all just the same, mm-hmm. but still you can admit that there are disagreements, big and small, on many issues, because Americans are not a singular individual with a singular mind, all expressing one particular goal or agenda. That's silly. Like, it's one of those things where it feels weird to even have to discuss it, but you do though, because we may understand that Americans, that's lots of different people, Tennesseans and Utahns and Californians and Texans and New Yorkers, and they're all different people. And they all have their different hopes and dreams and wishes and ideas about policy and government and all those things. But when it pertains to the barbarian horde, when it pertains to the other, they're all the same, right? Like we're all individuals capable of thought, but those barbarian invaders, they're all the same. And that's collectivist. It's collectivist to think that way, and it is poisonous nationalistic collectivism to think that we and our are attacked and we must respond. So we've addressed, so they attacked us. Who's us?
Yeah.
Do you have an embassy, Blake?
No.
I don't have an embassy.
I wasn't attacked by Iran.
I am not the United States of America in the same way that every single Iranian on earth is not the state of Iran.
Right.
So I don't have any embassies. They didn't attack me.
That's right.
I refuse to be categorized that way.
Yeah.
You know, like I refuse to be seen as they attacked us. You are a part of this. They attacked you by extension. Since they attacked the American embassy in Iraq, therefore they attacked you because you're a part of this. I'm not a part of this.
No.
I'm not a part of this.
No.
I don't have an embassy in Iraq. I promise you. I don't have an embassy anywhere. I don't think anyone wants me to have an embassy anywhere. I certainly don't have one in Iraq, and I don't think they want me to have one. And I respect that completely. So, you know, I can tell you when the regime won. I can tell you when the regime really won the debate on the warfare state, just like the welfare state and everything else in between.
Yeah.
It's when they got the regular Joe on the street to think of all of this as us. If everyone on the street thinks they attacked us, then the they is nothing but fodder for nuclear arms. We're just going to go nuke them all to the Stone Age.
Suddenly the they becomes less human.
Yes.
Yeah, they become garbage. They become scum.
Yes, they're worthless. They have no
beings.
value. Yes, it's so ugly to categorize human life either way. To categorize their human life as being somehow without value and that they deserve nothing but what comes to them. And vice versa, to then also categorize the us as all of us together. And
being somehow benevolent.
We're all somehow more nobler in our intentions and in our goodwill, and we deserve nothing but the best. I don't subscribe to that for a second. So we could sit here and talk about Iran Flight 655 when the USS Vincennes shot down an Iranian passenger jet, killing everyone on board. And, you know, we could talk about how those could be some of the reasons why they hate us. But I decided not to really make that about today's episode because I want to stay away from they. We could talk about how the CIA overthrew the democratically elected government in Iran in 1953, overthrew Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh. But I decided I didn't really want to talk about that because that's still, even though that's a very important aspect, and even though I think it's very naive to say that America is this peaceful state, you know, trying to spread goodwill around the world, and those darn evil Iranians who we didn't do anything to, they come along and get upset and they attack our embassy. That's such a short-sighted, naive way of looking at things.
Yeah.
And so the history of this is important.
Right.
But I would rather focus on us, on people, on human beings and how they play a role in this.
Right.
And I had shared the analogy online this past week, and I had said, you know, if you had an acquaintance that you caught time and again in lies, say they have a history of violence, not someone you would trust around your kids, you know, you would be insane to believe anything that person said. Your default position should be to reject and ignore and resist anything that person said or did. That analogy is the American empire times a million. There's just no term to describe someone that would still believe the press releases, that would still regurgitate the State Department talking points, that would support its policy, and goodness forbid, enlist to be an enforcer in its military, unless you are an indoctrinated slave, or you are a monster yourself, or you, goodness forbid, are both. But that really segues kind of into the second part that I had prepared, which is, I've taken a little bit of heat. I've had people say, what? Alan, what do you mean by that? When I've said, I don't like memes. Don't care for them. And I'll tell you why. We'll use the Epstein memes as an example. The Epstein memes accomplished nothing. The Epstein memes accomplished nothing. Now, these are some sober words that I have for people in my movement, just like in my troops and everybody in between. If you genuinely were preaching Epstein didn't kill himself, and then you turn around and take at face value the media and the State Department's talking points, you never really understood who the enemy was. Now, I mean, let's be clear about that for a second. If you don't think Epstein killed himself, then what you're saying is he was murdered. If he didn't kill himself, he was murdered. So let's call a spade a spade. If you don't think he committed suicide, then he was murdered.
Right.
If you think this man was silenced by powerful people in positions of strength so that his story wouldn't be told, so that they wouldn't be implicated in wrongdoing, and you think that they could do that and get away with it and go on committing the atrocities they commit, and that they don't answer to anyone, they certainly don't answer to you and me. If you think those things to be true, and I tend to think that, then why would you believe that different arms of this same apparatus, the same cabal, when they tell you they attacked us, we got to respond, you say, yeah, go get them? You never understood who the enemy was. And that is why memes are silly and memes are funny, but it's bullshit. You wind up with people who regurgitate those things because it's a joke. And then when the war machine starts banging their drums, they're right back on board. So, and I also wanted to give a big shout out, by the way, to all the kids looking for some free college, especially with Iran and the news cycle. Conscription is different. That's slavery.
Yeah.
The draft. Conscription is slavery. Right. They're putting a gun to your head saying you will serve in our armed forces or else. I sympathize with that.
Yeah.
That is wrong. It is literally slavery. And you have every right to resist, but if you value not being murdered by the state and you go along with it, I sympathize with you because you're under duress. Right. But if you volunteer, if you enlist to be one of the state's enforcers, I'm sorry, I just have no sympathy for you if something sad were to befall you. And I know that there's folks out there that are going to say, well, they're indoctrinated, they don't think the way you think. They don't see the state for what it is. But we live, it's 2020. We live in the information age. You can Google and look up anything you want. Weapons, WMDs in Iraq. The Afghanistan papers that no one's talking about. The Afghanistan papers just came out. We are lied and deceived. It lied and deceived into these foreign interventions time and time again. The military-industrial complex is alive and well. If you know this organization of murderers and thieves will stop at nothing to get their agenda, to line their pockets, to pay for defense contractors, even to the tune of massive wars and quagmires in the Middle East, time and time again, the same old story. If you believe Epstein didn't kill himself, if you believe all of those things, but you're still willing to enlist, I'm sorry, I have no sympathy for you, because you're not signing the contract to serve and protect and defend. You're not upholding the Constitution. There's not our troops. You know, I hear people say, we need to bring our troops home. Again, who's we? You and I have no say in that, my friends. We have no say in that. All we can do is talk to our neighbors. We can talk to individuals. We can talk to our friends and family, and we can convince them to don't get in bed with these monsters. That's all you and I can do. But if they're already there, there's no we. We have no say. And they're not our troops. They're not our troops. Blake, do you have any troops?
I don't have any troops.
I don't have any troops. They're not our troops. They are the state's troops. They are the state's enforcers, and once they sign that dotted line, they belong to them.
They do. They become indoctrinated servants.
We have no say, and they don't belong to us. And I won't take their agency away. I'm doing them a favor. We believe in individual responsibility around here. They will keep their agency. They are responsible for their actions. And that brings me further to, there was this really great quote by H.L. Mencken who said, to die for an idea, it is unquestionably noble. But how much nobler it would be if men died for ideas that were true.
True.
You know, I know a lot of kids sign up for the armed forces, and they've been raised in an environment where they think that that is a good and just thing, that they're going to go on to protect the weak and uphold virtue.
It's
and
romanticized.
Whatever. That would be great if that were true. But it's not. It's just not. And this is something I've said on the show before, and I want to reiterate this today. Because there's a lot of vets out there that all think that because they're a vet, they got their hot take, you know, of what we need to do. You were nothing, speaking to the military vets out there, you were an enforcer for an evil, tyrannical state. And maybe you've seen the light since then. I hope you have. If you're listening to this show, you probably have. But let me tell you something. If you have a shred of decency, if you have an ounce of regret, whether you were sold a false bill of goods or whether you enlisted starry-eyed believing you were going to save the world, if you have a shred of decency, my friends, this is your penance. You will head down to your nearest recruiting office. You will stand outside there on the sidewalk, and you will plead with those kids that are coming up to turn around and walk away from the recruiter. Tell them, don't make the mistake I did. Don't serve these masters. These are some of the worst people on the face of the planet. The Mike Pompeos of the world, the Donald Trumps of the world, just like the Barack Obamas, the Hillary Clintons. When you sign that dotted line, those are your masters, and these are some of the most just crazed, murderous, vindictive, terrible human beings to exist. Those are your masters when you enlist. Do not serve those masters. And I know that there's folks out there like, oh, this guy, he's anti-troop. He's not supporting the troops. Well, first of all, no, I am anti-troop. I am not supporting the troops. But I'll tell you, I have a lot more compassion than you. You out there with your little ribbon tied on your tree and your little, Marine mom or dad, whatever, on the bumper sticker of your car, I admonish you. I admonish you because if you were any type of parent, you would have not allowed your kids to go to some desert hellhole to fight to save some poppy fields or protect some oil for some special interests. What terrible parents you were to allow your children to do that. I am way more compassionate than you, my friends, because you know what I want them to do? I want them to stay home. I want them to get married, have a bunch of babies, get fat, live a happy life, and die surrounded by their loved ones. What I don't want them to do is to either get their arms and legs blown off in some hellhole, or possibly even worse yet, they come home and all the scars are in here. Mm-hmm. And furthermore, that they did it for nothing. They thought they were doing something good. They weren't. And I know that there's a lot of veterans out there who have been through that experience and have come out on the other side, and they see that it was they see it for what it was, and they regret it, and they want to atone for it in some way. They want to talk to others about it. I'm telling you, this is the way to do it. As for those of us at home watching The Mandalorian, this is the way. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you the way. You go down to that recruiting office and you tell the kids, go home. Go home. Do not sign that paperwork. Do not give them years of your life. Do not serve those masters. And just spare me the crocodile tears. Just spare me the crocodile tears for our men and women in the armed forces. They are not ours. As soon as they signed up, they were no longer a part of our community. They are theirs now. So that brings me to the final portion of today's episode, where I want to talk about just being anti-war. And that this of all different issues, of anything that we can have a disagreement on, if there's one thing that I simply will not entertain disagreement on, it's being anti-war. If you can't see through the nationalism and the supporting of the troops and the they and the us and the attacks and the response and all, if you can't see through all that, if you can't lower your blood pressure when they show the little, how they, remember back like in Desert Storm and stuff, you would see every night on nightly news, you would see like the night vision cam of the lights going through the sky. And people would be like, no, God damn it.
People are dying. People are getting killed. Those are human beings. They're not a video game. It's not Call of Duty. This is the real thing. These are real human beings that are dying. And you think that's funny. You're eating Cheetos and laughing at them.
I received some messages from some folks over the past week that had said to me, maybe you're being a little bit too on the nose with some of the statements you're making around this Iran stuff. And I got to tell you, my friends, if you're not ready to get fired up at a time like this, when the state is ramping up the war machine, what were you waiting for? Yeah. This is the most important thing. Everyone has their pet projects. Everyone has their issues that mean the most to them, and that's great. This is the most important thing. Being anti-war is the most important thing. Yeah. Being anti-war when the state is lying through their teeth, when it's telling people, you're under attack, you're in danger, let us protect you. Of course, their idea of protection is going to kill others. Don't buy into that. It is the most important thing is to be anti-war. I abhor violence, even against those I disagree with. Now, those same people will gladly watch the state blow my brains out because I refuse to pay for their pet government program or whatever. Never allow your opponents to enjoy feeling like they have the moral high ground. If you support war, you do not have the moral high ground. In fact, you are the worst kind of being. So there's something that I wanted to read. It's an ancient Chinese translation from Lao Tzu. Weapons are the tools of violence. All decent men detest them. Weapons are the tools of fear. A decent man will avoid them except in the direst necessity, and if compelled, will use them only with the utmost restraint. Peace is his highest value. If the peace has been shattered, how can he be content? His enemies are not demons, but human beings like himself. He doesn't wish them personal harm, nor does he rejoice in victory. How could he rejoice in victory and delight in the slaughter of other men? He enters a battle gravely, with sorrow and with great compassion, as if he were attending a funeral. I read that to the people who get excited when they see those streaks of light in the sky, that want to see America establish its dominance, that think of the other as the barbarian horde whose only single purpose is to destroy us, and that their lives somehow have less value in them. How could you rejoice in victory and delight in the slaughter of other men? We'll be right back after this break.
Have you ever been talking politics with a friend and told, if you don't like it here, you should just move to Somalia?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, from the sandy beaches of Mogadishu, Sherry and I bring you Postcards from Somalia, one of the newer products of Little L Productions, where we take on all of the fallacies of the people who say, if you don't like it, you can just get out. Your ad could be playing right now, reaching thousands of potential customers. Sadly, it's not, but it could be. Find out how to be an advertised sponsor for The Gold Standard with Alan Mosley. Email us at tgsalanmosley@gmail.com. Woo! All right.
Breathe.
Shake it out. Shake it out.
That was tense.
Dude.
Yeah.
I mean, that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
That was basically the last really serious segment
Really
we're
hard
going to do
moment.
before we switch over to
Yeah.
the new
format.
Yeah.
We might have some moments in the new show though, but I mean, I don't know if anything will get that tense. That's the crux right there.
No, we're not. No, we're not. The only moments we're going to have in the new show is laughter, clapping, and money. That's all. That's the only...
I like the way you think. Oh, and how about them Titans?
Oh, I forgot to mention that at the start of the program.
Oh yeah, I was gonna just kind of wait till this point to go there. Now I'm not much of a football guy. I mean, look, I like football. It's all right. I kind of understand it. I've never really been a sports dude, but I'm just so dang glad to see the Patriots get knocked out of the game.
I didn't read that out. I had actually made a post on my social media that was something along the lines of, don't let all the recent news with Iran distract you from the fact that the New England Patriots lost in the wild card round to the Tennessee Titans. And Tom Brady's last pass was a pick six.
Hallelujah. Oh, maybe the Super Bowl will be exciting again.
I don't even. I mean,
wow.
Actually, I told my friend Mike Meharry that I actually can enjoy the rest of the playoffs.
Yeah,
because they're gone.
Yeah, because and now it could be anything. Like
they can't hurt us anymore.
Again.
Yeah.
Oh,
guys, thanks for listening to another episode of The Gold Standard. You can find us on social media, which is facebook.com/TGS Alan Mosley. Twitter is at Alan M. Mosley. My Twitter's going to stay the same. Yeah. So there you go. You don't have to go to our website, which is thegoldstandardpodcast.com.
That's right.
Consider supporting the show. We're spending a bunch of money to build a new set for the new show.
So we might need your help.
We need a little help.
Yeah, help us out.
Patreon.com/TGS Alan Mosley. No more seriousness. There's only going to be one more episode. Kill that scroll. Only one more episode after this. It's going to be a really lighthearted. You know what I was actually thinking, Blake? Is how we used to do where we had the table and you and I would sit here and we would
side by side?
I was thinking about we should go back to the old table right here, and you and I should sit here, and we'll do the final episode the way we did the first one. We started
in the very beginning.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the new show. Yeah, so that people don't think that that's it and we go away.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We're just rebranding.
It was just an idea that I had.
That's a great idea.
Let us know in the comments if you think that we should do the final episode with Blake out here on the stage as opposed to being in his dark little dungeon.
Yeah, my dark dungeon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next week.